Grady, what is up, dude?
Good morning. How you doing?
Man, excellent, excellent. How you doing over on your end? Everything good in New Mexico, right?
Good. It's lovely. Yeah, it's beautiful out here.
Sick. I absolutely love it. So I am very very excited for today. I've gotten to do this a couple of times, where somebody is kind of showing examples or kind of doing a live exhibit, if you will. I'm very excited for this. And let me say first and foremost for anybody watching, this is about you. This is about Grady. This is not about me and interrupting and fucking going back and forth and getting in between your process. I'm very excited for this. So first and foremost, man, thank you so much for taking the time today. I am so psyched for this. This is going to be awesome.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So first, I guess we can even start here with this is going to kind of be initially us chatting, but you're going to end up moving the camera to where we're seeing your process. Can you tell us a little bit about the piece that you're going to be doing today?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to do some sort of graveyard ghoul. It's a fan favorite. I don't know what it's going to look like, and that's kind of the beauty of the monotype process too. You just kind of let the painting paint itself, even though it's a print. Anyways, the monotype is called the painterly print because it's more akin to a painting than a print. But you use traditional printmaking techniques to get there. The cool thing about a monotype is that there's only one. So yeah, you can't reproduce it like traditional printmaking technics. So it's more like a painting. So I'm excited. I don't know what it's
and
like.
it's awesome. I mean, I love just the absolute like in the moment I guess in the moment approach to it, and you kind of mentioning that where it's like every piece is in and of itself. You mentioned as far as that the print is a one of one. That's the only thing that exists. How did is monotype printing? I assume a thing. Was this something that you kind of have helped pioneer? I've never even heard of it, honestly.
I'm definitely not the pioneer, but I know a lot of printmakers just kind of use monotype as kind of a warm up, and I really wanted to take it into like let's have it be like really considered a piece of fine art. Even though like my content is maybe punk and horror, I really wanted to like drive the process towards, having it be recognized as like a really sophisticated kind of art, just like painting or anything else. But yeah, I fell into it like during college. I was in illustration school and just completely miserable. And one of my professors was like, "Hey man, go take a monotype class." And I had no idea what a monotype was. And I walked over to the printmaking department and like immediately fell in love. So it was
Now,
a cool thing. I just fell into it actually.
now, as far as the term monotype, for anybody like unaware, and even myself, kind of just being introduced to this and watching your lives and getting more, like familiar with, where does that term coin as far as in the process?
Mono just means one, right? And a type is there aren't any elements that can resurface in the print. So like unlike an etching where everything, you can subtly change it. This is like a one of one. It's done on a piece of plexiglass. And so there's not any reoccurring symbol or scratch or mark or anything that's gonna pop up. So, but yeah, it's a super old traditional printmaking technique. So, yeah, I
Jeez.
definitely didn't innovate it or make it up, but I'm just like I'm completely in love with it, and I won't do any kind of other art. I hate drawing. It's like it's not for me.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I taught art for 13 years, and I was like, this is
Oh,
this is
wow.
cool. Like, I'll show the kids like how to draw and stuff, But like, my first love is absolutely the monotype, and yeah, stoked stoked with it. It's kind of niche, but I'm down with that. So
I mean, it's so sick. And even if like, I feel, with it being something where it's a one of one, where it's something where it's just like this isn't, you know, a piece that I painted and I am keeping for myself, but you can have this reproduction of, you know, what it may be thousands or something that I think that's something too, you know, where maybe you mentioned niche, but it becomes more than that just because as far as like a collector or somebody that's into art, somebody that's into visuals, you know, it just being that one thing like is so, so sick. Now you mentioned, you know, not being into drawing and everything, or you know, not that not being, you know, your niche as far as within mediums, but where was that initial like start for you as far as, you know, things that kind of were carrying you through art, you know, prior to finding Monotype?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think definitely I started with comics, cartoons. I was really into drawing like characters and things like that when I was a kid. Like in my high school years and into my 20s, I was super into graffiti. So that kind of helped like
Oh,
with the kind
sick.
of like spatial aspect of art. And then yeah, I found monotype, and the way you make them is mostly like through the subtractive method. So I'm not drawing, but I'm taking away from like a black chunk. So I'm like chiseling. It's kind of like sculpting, like 2D sculpting maybe.
Hmm.
You could put it next to that. But yeah, I guess just my brain. Why I don't like to draw is because I get so frustrated putting the black into the white, but removing the white, but removing the white from the black just somehow works in my brain, and like subtracting everything is much easier for me.
Huh.
So
Oh,
yeah, I
no
mean,
shit.
you know, I did graph, I used to draw, I tried abstract painting, you know, I did everything, and then I finally arrived at monotype, which is my bag, man. So
Damn.
yeah.
In it's something too where like textures. You mentioned it being 2D, but you know, some of your stuff it almost, you know, has that effect of jumping off of the page, you know, page so to speak, but initially the plexiglass. Um, was that something, you know, in your time of painting to where like was that, you know, that you were adding, you know, texturizing or was there different, you know, mediums that you had done early on as far as things popping off of a page or, you know, becoming more than just a flat
Uh,
surface?
you know, I think one of the like lovely things about monotype is that it's basically like really like based in mark making. And until I started doing
Oh, okay.
various types of printmaking and then eventually monotype, I didn't have like the tools in my toolkit to like make crazy textures. But you know, once I started figuring out like you can, you know, drag an eraser through some black ink and it will create like a really unique texture, or you know, like let me show you one of these brushes. Like I've had this brush for probably like 12 years and like never ever cleaned it. So like each time I use it, like another like chunk of the ink gets on it, and then like you know
Damn.
just like different movements you can like do with like a tool to make a mark is like what I really got fascinated by. And so yeah, the textures kind of like became uh a thing that I was hunting for. So I would be out in nature, I'd find like a stick and like it had like a weird like bark texture, I would like drag that through the ink. You know, your fingers are great with gloves, studio safety kids always. And then you know, like brushes, I've got rubber brushes. Anything can make a mark, and I got really fascinated with that. So I think that's
That's
where that came from.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome. You know, and I always love hearing too, you know, how when it kind of comes into those processes, especially within art, you know, it's like you have paintbrushes and you have different things, but it's like sometimes the tip of your finger is just what's going to do it for you. Or, you know, you have something where you need a circle and it's like, oh, this Pringle can top
perfect.
is just the perfect, you know, perfect circle to have something on there. Like, it's always so fun to kind of find different things. It's like, geez, I would never initially use that. But here it is, and it's exactly what it is I need.
Yeah, this piece,
It's great.
this tape roll is always like a moon in my
Heck
pieces.
yeah.
So yeah, it's been reused a lot.
It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, through the years, you know, I know that you even through the earlier 2000s doing exhibits and you've had different art shows. You have a couple of things even on YouTube from earlier 2000s of earlier pieces too. Yeah. maybe even bring us back, as far as that first time of taking on an exhibit. What goes into that? What goes into your personal experience? What's the learning process in all this?
Yeah, I think so. Kind of writing that like graffiti, like abstraction, color field, like thing. I was really into that, but um, I just recognized that my work was just kind of like pouring water into the ocean. Like I didn't really have a voice or like a standout voice. So I spent just like the next years just trying to like figure out, how I could stand out from the crowd and like how my work could be like easily identifiable to a person, to a viewer. And until I reached Monotype, I would say that my anywhere I was showing, I was just, I made a piece of art, somebody liked it, I put it in a show. Um, but now, like with Monotypes, like uh, I feel like my stuff is easily recognizable. People will be able to like see me out of the crowd, and so I think the learning experience was just making sure that I was staying like true to like what I was interested in, like visually, and then finding a medium that would really speak to me and speak to others. Um,
Mm,
I don't know much more than that, man. Like I'm lucky to even be showing anything, to be honest. It's extremely hard to have your work be out there, and it's very humbling. And yeah, I'm stoked.
yeah.
I'm
Wow.
stoked with my successes and my small victories, and that's, I think, like what keeps me going. So
How did that first one come along? Was it something that you were, just having that hustle and kind of pushing your way in, or how did that come to?
I, in the art field, probably along the lines in the music field too. It's like who and like you meet somebody and they're like, oh, I like your art. Come and show. And so for a while there, it was just me like meeting people and then being invited to shows. So I've never like sent my work out to like a gallery or anything. And like
Hmm.
when Instagram was
Oh.
working, I hope they don't cancel us after I say this, but like, yeah, when Instagram was working, like my stuff was being shown to like tons and tons of people, and I would get, hit up by galleries to show with them, and then, and then you make, a good relationship with the gallery and they ask you back. So I think it's just,
It's awesome.
staying humble and just getting your work out there is the answer for sure.
Sure, sure. I mean, I think along the lines, and you mentioned, like punk or like kind of like a DIY, aspect of anything, music, film, art. There's just that kind of thing where it's a little bit of that hustle, and then it's kind of, meeting people and having, that sense. But at the end of the day, there's always talent. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, there's got to be fucking something there. And I think it's awesome too within art, where I think a lot of times initially maybe even color is something where it's like, oh, I recognize this person's work because of such and such, or even like locally, there's different tattoos that I'll see on friends. I'm like, did he or she did they? Oh, okay, cool.
Mhm.
I think it's awesome where I see your stuff, and from the first time that I saw that, I like wrap back around and I would see, maybe like a repost or a tag or something. I'm just like, holy shit, this is Grady stuff. Here it is, like no color necessary, textures, the style of it. Yeah, so I mean, if you're cool with it, I'd like to kind of jump into the process and see what comes of this piece here. And
Sure.
I'm not going to try to interrupt. Maybe even in the process having a couple of things, but yeah, you kind of take the lead here. I'm excited to see what we got.
Cool, man. We can definitely keep talking during the process. Let me switch this
Sure.
camera over. Yeah,
Okay.
I put it in the little setup here.
Now the plexiglass, is this, anything? I mean, starting kind of just with materials. Is this anything fancy? Is this something that you had to cut yourself? What do we
This
got here?
this is a eighth of an inch thick plexi, and then it has whoops, some beveled edges right here, so the roller of the press can roll up onto it. But no, there
Hmm.
used to be a place in the Bay where I used to live called Tap Plastics, where I would just say I need this size, and they would cut it for me, and then I would
Oh,
file it down. But
sick.
yeah, man, probably like a you know, $5 piece of plastic that I've done like, you know, 600 prints on. So, uh,
It's
so
awesome.
yeah, it's totally fun. Let me see if I can get a head going here. Let me know if I'm in frame because once I
Yep.
start
Look,
going, I probably won't pay attention. Okay, here we go.
for sure.
So is this is Portland black etching ink made by
Okay.
Gamblin Company out of Portland. I have been using this for probably like 17 years now.
Oh shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. How'd you get introduced to that?
Uh, you know, there's a lot of different kinds of etching ink on the sorry, I'm having a brain fart on the
You're good.
in the old art
Hmm.
shelves. I just found that this has like a really nice tack, and like the products used to like cut it, like odorous mineral spirits, and then this stuff called burnt plate oil, which is like the vehicle for etching ink, kind of similar to like how linseed oil is the vehicle for oil paint, is made by
Oh,
this
okay.
brand, and it's always just it's never let me down. It's never let me down.
Dang. Okay. And I mean, is there a process too as far as like clean up after? Is it difficult to get off of the plexiglass? Is that something where you have to, take a process after?
Well, yeah, since it's oil based, you have to use like a mineral spirit to get it off the glass. But you know,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
super simple cleanup, just with
Okay.
some paper towels. Right here, I'm using a makeup sponge. Um,
Okay.
it gives a really nice, you know, this is how you kind of like take it down to, you know, mid-tone gray. But yeah, as you saw, I just started with you know, just getting a head shape put in there. And then now you just kind of let your marks take you where you want to go.
Man, and I have to say, it's something for, the little guys or myself not being artistically, an advantage by any by any means to see, you just starting with the shape and then something as cool as the stuff that you do comes out of that.
Oh man,
I'm like,
thank you.
man, I would not be able to do it, but
Uh,
yeah, all right. So you got a
got
Q-tip now.
Q-tip. I should be sponsored by Q-tip. I'm gonna. Anybody who works for Q-tip? I probably go through a box of 750 of these a week. So
Oh,
they're
oh
they
shit.
are absolutely great for making teeth. Um, Yeah, I just kind of like
Okay.
stumbled across using a Q-tip. I mean, a Q-tip is a very monotype tool for sure, but
Sure. Okay.
yeah, anything that can remove the ink is a great tool. Let's see here, make this a little darker.
Jeez. And now, recently, you've been doing some lives as well. Is this something that you've recently been kind of doing as far as having some of your work up on there
Yeah,
or
uh,
on here, I
yeah,
should
yeah,
say?
yeah. I definitely like doing lives. I get to play the music I like, and then you know have conversations with people who are into my stuff, which is nice. It's nice to meet your audience for sure. I think, you
Totally.
know,
Okay.
just being all internet people now, it's like we're so far removed from like having a human connection that it's always nice to meet somebody, even though it's is still virtual, you know.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so
Right.
it's a good thing, you know, and I'm happy to share my process like while I'm doing it, you know. It just it's fun. So
That's sick.
this is a rubber brush. Um, and you can see like some of the patterns, textures it gives, but it has a nice kind of like striated shape when you pull it through the ink.
It is. I mean, like I have to explain too for anybody watching or even you hearing. Like when I start laughing, it's just because of how cool the shit is, and it's just like out of excitement,
Yeah,
where I'm like seeing things. I'm like, how the fuck are they doing that?
yeah.
That's so
Yeah,
insane.
man.
So
So,
we're just getting some of the textures in there. Okay.
yeah, and then like a monotype is a lot about pushing and pulling. So I'm taking away and then I'm adding back in just to
Okay. Sure.
keep the the contrast and the blacks and whites going here.
Now, and there's, I mean, I would assume there's got to be a little bit of a balance too with like how much that you're putting on, like even within like by the teeth there to where it's not bleeding over. Do you have, kind of like a, I mean, over time, obviously you're going to have a little bit of a understanding of what's going to be too much to where when you press down the paper, have you had that to where it's like, oh shit, I put too much down, it fucking
Yeah,
flooded the whole thing.
yeah, exactly. Well, this ink is like it'll stay in place because it's so tacky. It's kind of like the texture of bubble gum. It's like that thick.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's not like it's
Whoa.
not going to run necessarily.
Okay.
There's water-based inks that people use, but those are really hard to control. Um,
Hmm.
Basically, if your ink isn't standing up like 3D off the surface, and if you have the pressure right on your press, like it's not going to smear.
Oh,
But
okay.
as our
Okay.
favorite, Bob Ross kind of situation might explain, like you can have happy accidents where like a smear turns into like a really cool thing too.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah,
For sure.
and monotypes are always kind of like, it may look like this on the plate, but certain pressures, humidity, like how damp your paper is, can like really start to affect the way something comes out. So right now I'm
Okay.
just using a Q-tip just to like cut the outside shape of this skull out. All right. Let's see. How
Sick.
about some eyes? Let's go for some eyes. Get this bridge.
Now, do you typically do you work inside? Do you work outside? Do you feel, because you kind of mentioned humidity and especially New Mexico, I can only imagine that that's a turning point for sure.
It's super dry here, so the humidity doesn't really affect any.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Duh.
No,
Fastest
it's
over here.
no. You're in the East Coast, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you're living in the swamp. Yeah, man. Like so, the way the press reacts, like sometimes the pressure, I just have to change it like very subtly, just
Mm.
and the way I turn the crank on the press varies day by day, and um,
Mm. Oh.
so there it's just weird little factors to the monotype. It's like such a subtle thing that's going to um, like make a print come out the way you want it. So
Huh.
over the years, you
Wow.
just kind of like learn the feel to how it is, and yeah, you just go from that and hope that you get something cool. If not, move on to the next, man. If
Yeah.
a piece doesn't want to come out, it's not going to come out. There's no reason to fight it. That's kind of like
Sure.
my idea with making art. Um, but yeah, success rate's pretty good at this stage, just simply because I've been doing it for so long.
Sure.
So
Okay. Okay.
here's that trusty finger going in there and just mapping out some eyeballs. Yeah.
Wild. There's so many stages too, where like just as a fan of seeing somebody like this right now, even if you were to take the paper and you press that down, that looks ripping. I mean, there's so many times, even where like you see somebody tattooing and it's like, fuck, I wasn't gonna get it black and gray, but the outline looks awesome. Like I don't
Yeah,
even know if you want to. It's
totally,
rad.
totally. Yeah, and I think like there's almost I get to a point where I'm like getting so detailed in my work that like I have to like start deconstructing it again just to like bring it to the highest level and then like break it down into like
Mm.
the sum of its parts again and just kind of really like be aware of how much I'm putting in there. Am I leaving any mystery to anything? Like what's going on? So totally feel
Oh,
you on
okay.
that.
Okay. All right. Have there been things, as far as even within, this year and maybe even, your process of doing a live and kind of having extra eyes or somebody, mentioned something where some things have changed a little bit, from your process? I mean, obviously things are going to change, but, just different things that have come up you know, where you're like, man, maybe I'll kind of cut this out of, you know, what I've been doing for a little while, or I feel like this has kind of become uh, continuous through my pieces where I might not do this to change it up.
Yeah, you know, I'll fall back into old like patterns and old kind of like I know this is going to work, and so I think that if you're not trying to like constantly challenge yourself, like um, you're just kind of phoning it in. So I try to like figure out a new kind of texture, a new kind of like context. I've been really looking into like old um kind of like medieval paintings where there's like a you know a
Mm-hmm.
single panel narrative like happening within just the painting, and then it kind of like it brings in like a bunch of emotion. It brings in kind of like a sense of mystery, like you can interpret it a couple different ways. So like you know the work that I do with like my figures, I'm always trying to like tell a small story in that. um, and so I think that's the challenge, and I think that's like the interesting way to like challenge you know challenge yourself to make something that you haven't yet. um
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
sure. Those medieval pieces too are
Oh
badass.
hell yeah.
Those things are radical,
Nice.
evil.
Yeah, totally.
Oh man, just like that.
Just like that.
That's another thing too, is within these pieces, the eyes are always so captivating. And it's so interesting just to see as far as the process, even, you know, right there, we're like, oh shit, this guy's staring into me.
Yeah, I do like a good creepy eye. You know, they're the windows to the soul, as some people may say. So
Uh,
we're you know we're looking at this and we're like, oh yeah, this guy is like definitely on some shit here.
yeah.
He's like elated. I don't know, like some people have like some people have described my work as like monster existentialism, and I'm like, okay, word, I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, whoa. I can
Yeah,
dig that. Shit,
so
it's
you're
awesome.
like something so gruesome having like so much emotion and everything. I think
Yeah,
that
right.
I think that's kind of like something that might be lacking in like the horror world, where you're just kind of like, okay, there's this monster, it's got one face, it's got no levels to how it's doing today, and so I'm trying to bring that in.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you just
I
are
love
you
that.
just a
You know?
straight up murderer? Like, what's the deal here? Like, there's got to
Yeah.
be something else. There's got to. What's your motivation? So
Yeah. You know, maybe even a classic Frankenstein, you know, the poor fella.
totally,
You look into his eyes and it's like, man, he's this depicted terrorizing thing. And it's like, he's just hurting.
he's hurting,
He's a
man.
sad
He's a
fella.
sad fella for sure.
Man, oh man. Yeah, so within that, you know, like what is your, you know, kind of connection to, you know, I think there's something where, you know, you have some kind of gruesome, you kind of have some, you know, darkness to your stuff, the skulls. You know, is there a history there for horror with you?
Absolutely, and I think it really kind of like comes back to like being a kid growing up in the '80s and going into like your local video store and seeing like all the rad movie posters up on the wall. Two that
Oh
come to mind
yes.
that have like I still just look at in awe are the Evil Dead 2 poster with the
Yeah.
skeleton with the eyeballs. It's just like I'm probably ripping that off in every piece. And then the Fright Night poster from the '80s is just so
Oh
amazing. I
man.
love that you know, vampire in the clouds over the house thing. It's just so good. Um, I wish I knew who did both of those posters because they deserve tons of props. But yeah, like just kind of like watching horror my whole life. Like I'm Aliens is absolutely my number one favorite film. I don't know if that's a horror film. It's more like an action flick, I guess. But just like
Totally is.
the concept of the xenomorph and all that, you know. So I yeah, I have a really huge relationship with horror, and I've always liked it. And you know, who doesn't want to draw skulls all the time? I mean, it's super cool. So I mean,
it's
that's
so
where I'm at.
it's funny you mentioned
Yeah,
that too, because like when I was big into like painting, when I was big into kind of this like window that I was really just kind of buying canvases and paint, it was always skulls, and it was always kind of one of those things where my wife is like, there's different things that you could paint. I'm like, I know, man,
yeah,
but
yeah,
these, yeah,
yeah.
this is where I'm stuck.
Yeah,
Shit.
well, it's not being stuck, you know. It's just celebrating what we all have inside of us, you know.
There it is.
Yeah,
There it is. Yeah, you mentioned like the Evil Dead 2, and there was just like there's that beauty, to even when I was young, I was so drawn to those things. And obviously, now when you look back and kind of look into the whole idea of it, that's the idea, is for somebody to walk past and be completely drawn. And it's just kind of one of those things, even, right now with artists and with stuff like yourself, doing things where I'm just like, man, I can't, I got to go back and kind of see what the story is here, or maybe, what it is that's said about this piece. And
hell yeah,
awesome stuff, man,
hell
for
yeah,
sure.
hell yeah.
Jesus.
Um, yeah, absolutely. I think that knowing where stuff comes from is super rad, and definitely I have a long list of influences. But yeah, man, those early '80s movies posters were just incredible. Like not just even the horror, but like everything was like illustrated, and it was just beautiful, man. Like the kind of aesthetic that's there is just, I don't know if we'll ever have it again.
Yeah, well, I think that there's certain things that are still out there, that especially like still the underground, maybe not underground, but not the Lions Gate or the huge
Sure.
companies. There's been some different things that have come out. Have you ever heard of the movie
Oh
Color
yeah,
Out of Space?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's that.
Oh
That's
man,
that Lovecraft thing, right? With
yeah,
Nick Cage.
Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage. Yeah,
Well,
that movie is
Mandy is
awesome.
like, you know, top five of all time in my book.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, absolutely love that film.
I I wasn't huge into it,
Well,
to be
here we
honest with
are.
you. I I've always said that I wanted to go back and watch it, and I haven't gotten back to it yet.
Yeah,
And it wasn't a thing that I hated it by any means. There's like anything, especially for independent workers of any sort. I applaud the fact of just getting out there and fucking doing it.
yeah.
It just didn't strike with me for whatever
Uh,
reason. It was kind of the same thing with like the Babadook. I don't know if you've seen that. A
I
lot of
did.
people have talked
I
about.
did.
Yeah, did you like that
I
or no?
like the character design, I think. The movie overall, I was like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah.
I was just wanting it to be an actual monster. I think was where like it failed for me. I just wanted that thing, that I'm seeing in the woods, or like huge and kind of gallivanting over everything. I wanted that to actually exist, and then it didn't, and I was kind of bummed.
I get it. Totally.
I can see that.
Hell yeah.
So now you, a couple of steps back here, you had a thicker. It looked like maybe was it that brush that you were talking about earlier, up on the forehead there?
Up here. So,
Yeah, kind of taken away there.
this is what's called a
Oh,
brayer.
here we
Yeah,
go.
so like a roller. But this also has like, I don't know if you can see the texture in there, but this
Hmm.
has like dried ink on it as well. And so I've
Okay.
never washed these out, so these just give like a really cool kind of like, I don't know. So all of that what just happened is just because of the like
Uh-huh.
gaps in the brayer, and so it's just another way to like
Oh, shit.
build texture. I think is what I use it for.
It's
Absolutely.
like a fine pan, as far as for making a good steak. They say, to leave the gristlings in it.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
I'm seeing the connections now.
Yeah.
It's a little extra
Indeed.
flavor. I love it. I
Indeed.
love it. Damn.
So let's
Okay. And
see
so,
here.
yeah,
Go ahead. So sorry.
I was just going to ask, as far as, so when you didn't grow up in New Mexico, where was it that
Oh,
you grew up prior to,
I did grow up in New Mexico, actually.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got you.
I'd been out in the Bay for near 20 years, and I just moved back to New Mexico like 2 years ago. So
Hmm.
I was done with
Okay.
cities and needed space, and a place where I could actually afford just to be an artist, and that's not the Bay Area. So,
Okay. Sure.
but yeah,
Now, did you teach
I
out while you were in the Bay?
did. I did. I taught at a K through 8 school called San Francisco Day School, and
Hmm.
it was cool. We had a really neat program where we basically studied, like, it was called like Artist of the Month, and so we would take somebody usually from the contemporary art world, and study their work, and then the kids would make work inspired by them. We studied me one
Hmm.
time, which was
Oh.
which was really great, and so the kids made, like, there was like 400 evil, scary, skull heads floating in the hall one summer, and it was just like, I was like, yes, I finally, I finally made it.
I've made
I'm
it.
affecting the youth. This is great. So yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
awesome.
So it's a good
Man.
time, man. Like that, I had a teacher in high school who totally affected me, and I was like, he kind of like egged me on to be an artist. I didn't really like get like serious about art until probably my senior year in high school. And I just saw,
Hmm.
there's like, alternative ways of living, and being an artist is absolutely one of those. So I just, had to go for it. Um, and then,
I mean, and him having that effect on you, like what do you feel was, different from other years of taking on, classes and having teachers? What was it about him that
uh,
gave you the push?
yeah, I think that it was just kind of like he saw where I was trying to go, and he saw that I had like all of these ideas, and I was working on trying to solidify it, but he really like just gave me the pep talk to where it was like, yeah, you can totally do this. You just need to practice, just like anything in the world.
Hmm.
Um, and other teachers were fine, but like my art teacher, you'd go and hang out with your art teacher like at lunchtime, because you
Yeah,
knew that
right. Right.
you knew that person was on the level and was like totally, living their alternative life too. And just having somebody like in your corner, especially at that age, is like a really rad thing. Um,
Yeah.
and so I was stoked to like go back and like give some of that back to the community too, like being a teacher as well. Like I still talk to a lot of the kids I've taught, and they're like in their 20s now. I'm like, Jesus, this is so weird. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, but it's rad, They're like, you helped me want to be an artist or a filmmaker, and I was like, dude, this is what's up. We need more of that. So,
It's
so
great.
anyways, yeah,
God,
yeah, yeah. So yeah,
man.
right now I'm just
And
building texture on this guy, just kind of playing around. I can always add and take away too. So that's the fun with Monotype. You're not like stuck with having to like erase it like a pencil drawing and be really mad because you can still see your mess up or whatever.
it's so like I think something that's so interesting from seeing your process and seeing different works of the like that in like Monotype is there's so much space for freedom as far as even from the first initial like step of I'm going in and I'm going to have a fine line drawing of a camel and it's going to look
Right.
exactly like this. I mean, as far as is that something that's always kind of pushed you within Monotype is being able to have that where it's like, I don't know exactly what the fuck is going to come out of this, but I'm going to make sure that it's cool and yeah, we're going to go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the ability to like continuously be able to like go back and forth and shift what it was initially into something new at
Mm-hmm.
the end is definitely a driving force in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's unforgiving and super forgiving at the same time. Like I don't know. It's just like the more you do it, the more kind of you give in to like just like really paying attention to the moments that are part of the piece. And so I've had pieces where they start as a figure with a sword, and then it that sword like gets out of the hand, and then it turns into like a sickle, and then that sickle turns into a tree branch, and then like all of a sudden you're in this like graveyard, and I don't know, man. So it's like it's all about about like letting the piece paint itself, in my opinion, and like whatever wants to come out will. And like you shouldn't like try and force things. And that, that's like what I was saying earlier. If it's not working for you, honestly, I would say just bag it and walk away and come back the next day. There's
Yeah,
no reason you should beat yourself up for not like putting stuff out, um, that
sure.
you like, or you're going for the likes or whatever. You just gotta
Hmm.
you gotta be true to yourself and be stoked on what you make, for sure.
For absolutely the integrity behind it too. I think that's a huge play into everything is being into it and having a good time with it and continually growing from it and not just kind of keeping stagnant out of it. And I think art specifically, like at least to my mind, is the most driven on that. Just of the fact of like I am doing this because I enjoy this and I love what it is that comes out of. But I feel like there's different times where that kind of gets fumbled and people miss that a little bit. You kind of mentioning with likes and social medias and different things like that. It's like have a good time.
Exactly. You definitely should have a good time. Now, if you're doing it as a career, like I'm doing it, you want those likes to turn into sales, clearly. But it
Mhm.
shouldn't be like driven by sales. If you're comfortable, then that's what's up. And it is a
Sure.
hustle. I mean, you are selling a luxury item, so like that's what we have to remember as artists too. Like, I don't know. And then you have to like think about the demographics of like your fans too. Like, can they afford an original? Can they afford like some merch that I put out? So you gotta hit every level and like be stoked that people want to spend their hard-earned money on your stuff.
Yeah,
That's the gratitude
absolutely.
portion of the art. So you can get really down on yourself, like I'm not as successful as this person or whatever, but your success lies in, um, your fans just pumping you up, and like the amazing fact that you even have fans, like that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Well, yep. Totally agree. I
yep,
love it.
yep. So yeah, this guy turned into a
I'm just
he's just gushing now, man. These eyes, damn these eyes. He's just crying it out. Or are they melting? I don't know. It's up for discussion. But yeah. So I do like to put
That's
this kind of like
so
manic
sick.
energy into my creatures. I guess that's that existentialism we're talking about earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you have certain times, where you go and you might, toss in a little, a little secret or a little, kind of just if you're looking close enough, you're gonna see, initials or maybe you write butt in somewhere and it's like, oh wait, what is
uh,
this rascal doing here?
I tend to hide kind of like signs and symbols in my work. Some of the more like figurative stuff. You'll notice like six fingers on a toe or a hand, and then you get really dorky and you're like, oh yeah, 666. Like, look at all those sixes in there, which is which is
Okay.
totally silly because I think it's just ridiculous. Religion,
Yeah.
religion, Satanism, whatever you want to call it. So it's me like poking
Yeah.
fun at all that, and then there's also, I tend to throw this like Nordic sigil for death, which looks like the letter Y, in a lot of my
Hmm.
pieces. So you can sometimes see that. Usually not with just like a head. It has to have like a story going on in it for me to bring symbolism in like that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Now, do you have any, I mean, as far as, around the house, coffee table books, different, kind of um, researches or anything as far as within skulls? Have you had anything as far as looking into, kind of the different processes over time? How just as far as the detail that ends up in these things, it's
Yeah.
enamoring.
Thanks. I have three people I look at super often. One of them is Kathy Kolwitz, who was an etching printmaker during war times, from Germany. A
Mm.
lot of her stuff is just like, it has so much feeling in it, and you can tell like a lot of the textures are on purpose, and they're so driven with like kind of the emotional state of the world at that point. Um, Another person I
Mm.
look at is Goya. His prints are some of the most beautiful things ever made. Um, he would often depict the political space as a type of monster, and I've always thought that was really interesting.
Mm.
And
Wow.
then Francis Bacon, his kind of like approach to
Okay.
laying paint down, and I don't know, man, it just can't be recreated. So those are my three faves. I would definitely say I look at more often than not.
Sick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Skull wise, like
Nice.
I don't
Nice.
know, man. I think it's just shoot from the hip and like, whoa, that texture's rad. Let's mess with that. So, I mean, I've never seen a skull
It
like this,
is.
but why do we want to like? I don't want to see. I don't want to see like stuff I can see in real life. I'm way more interested in like
Sure.
what's beyond the veil and all that. So
Every once in a while, when I see different things, I'm like, man, I feel like that is something that was on one of the Faces of Death compilation tapes at one point. That you're like, boy, I didn't want to go over to my friend's house to watch this, but here we are.
it's funny that man, that whole conversation just came up, and like tons of little like interactions lately with me too. The Faces of Death really like affected a generation, that's for sure.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I was not a
I
fan.
wasn't either,
I
man.
never had fun with
I
them.
don't I don't
Yeah,
like real gore, dude. It's not the place for me.
yeah. I was just talking about with a couple of friends the other day who were bringing it up, and they're like, "Oh, well, you like horror movies, and so you like haunted houses." And it's just like anything in real life. I'm not, if a situation pops up, somebody's cut, you got to put a bandage on it,
Yeah.
you got to put a cloth, whatever. I'm fine with first aid, but like I'm not really trying to see this shit. Somebody got hit by a car, like
Oof.
I'm not stopping to pull over and look.
Yeah,
Like I'm
100%.
like, what is wrong with
Yeah, yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally, totally. Yeah.
Jeez.
There's no
Oh
joy
yeah,
in
any of those
real
videos.
gore, man. I do not like it.
No,
Yeah.
no. And it's a funny relationship too, where like there's, you kind of have that where somebody mentions like someone liking horror movies or drawing, or having, skulls as pieces. And it's like, oh, well, you must have an interest. No, I
No.
don't. I have an interest in this
Yeah,
aspect,
yeah, yeah.
not real life.
Totally, totally.
Oh, man. It's funny too that you mentioned Evil Dead 2, and now like that I'm like looking back at this shit, I'm just like, oh man, that is like the ultimate badass
Uh,
thing. And then especially the eyes, like that's where kind of my mind goes. It's one of my favorites
yeah,
of all time.
me too.
And it being something where you mentioned not seeing in real life, it's like a skull with eyeballs, like that's different.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's let's see, what did he teach? I think he was a math teacher uh, at the spot I taught at, and he was like, wouldn't the eyeballs rot out first? Like, why is there this skull with eyes? And I was like, why isn't there this skull with eyes? It's just so much fun to like see. It's obviously like something you would never see, but yeah, that poster for Evil Dead 2, man. As a kid, I would walk into the video store, and just like it would just follow you around, and I was like, oh my god, that's so sick. And I was terrified. I was
Yeah.
terrified, but also like so enamored. I was like, wow, this is so sick, dude.
Now, were your parents cool with you watching scary movies? Was it something where you had to catch them on TV for the TV cuts? How did that
Um,
go?
you know, my parents were like pretty cool with it, but then you always have that one friend where their parents didn't care what you were watching. So a lot of my horror
Yeah.
viewing happened over at his house for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, once you pass like 11 or 12, it's like, what can they actually say? It's like, so.
Yeah. Yeah. You could be doing worse shit for
Oh,
sure.
100%. Yeah, I remember them. I remember my folks being like, "You can't watch Lost Boys," and I was like, "What? That's so sick." And I like our friend's babysitter was like, he's like, "You guys want to watch Lost Boys?" I was like, "Oh my god!" And so I feel like I got in trouble. I feel like I got in trouble as a kid for watching Lost Boys, but it's like, that's another super favorite of mine that
Oh,
just like
oh
it hits
man,
so hard on a nostalgic level. And
I agree. I agree.
Kiefer Sutherland's blonde mullet is like what I aspire to. If I still had hair, man, getting old sucks. Anyways,
Now, are you more apt to say you're more interested, or you're more of a fan of Fright Night or Lost Boys? Which way would you
oh
go
my
with that?
God, they're so different on so many levels. Uh, I do love the camp of Fright Night. I think you can't get any better than that. It's just so hilarious and
I
amazing.
agree.
Especially,
Agree.
I don't know. There's so many moments like when the I don't what's his freaking name? Susan Sarandon's brother. Uh, his like familiar that
Yeah.
is like when he dies on the stairs and melts, and then like sand also comes out of his arms. I was like, oh my God, he's so sick. Just like that whole scene where he's dying. It's like the creature effects is so good. I also like Fright Night too. That's hilarious. Like the roller skating
Dude,
vampire. That's so funch. And then you got John
so sick.
Grease as the werewolf, who's just
Mm-hmm.
completely
Yep.
unhinged. So good. Um, but yeah, man, like Lost Boys just has this like it encapsulates the '80s like feeling for me so much that I
Mhm.
don't know, man. You got both Corys in there; they're doing their thing, super hilarious. All the I
Yeah,
like the vampire design in that as well, with the crazy eyes and everything. Death by Stereo, classic line for sure.
yeah. Yeah. I think I always like a little bit more drawn to the Fright Nights, but
Yeah,
even with like the Lost Boys, it was kind of like it's like a capsule in time, of just so much, just a summer, a summer in like the 80s. I feel like there's just very much of that, like even coming of age story, especially when you're younger and it's younger kids that are going through this shit.
yeah, so much, man. So cool. Yeah, those
Yeah.
are two, and then yeah, Near Dark is a fave too. Basically,
Oh man, okay.
anything with like Bill Paxton in it is freaking rad. Love love
Yeah.
that guy. He he
he,
uh
he's
he
he's
li-
always done great.
he he looks like my dad sometimes, and I look at my dad and I'm like, whoa, you're like channeling some Bill Paxton, or vice versa. Whatever, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
they're
funny.
very kin,
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah,
kin,
yeah,
kin alike. I like that. Jeez,
yeah, yeah.
that's awesome. Every once in a while, I'll bring them out and have them, dress up maybe at like a convention or something, have some, autographs, some pictures.
Nice, totally.
It'd be great. Bring them out.
Yeah, dope. Yeah, yeah. So this guy's getting pretty drippy now, which is a absolutely fun thing to do.
Almost, almost like a Tar Man situation.
Yeah,
The
dude,
Return of the
Tarman
Living Dead.
Family too, man. I love that movie.
Yeah.
That's such a fun one. I mean, the graveyard dance scene is like legend, man.
Can't get away
Can't
from
get
it. Yeah.
away.
Once you see that.
Yep.
Yeah. So now, as far as there was a saying that you had kind of mentioned, as far as getting any closer, and it would have bit
Yeah.
you, bite you. Where did that relativity come to you, and as far as your interest in snakes within your work?
Yeah. So I had a show, and it was all nature-based work, and it was called "If it was a snake, it would have bit you." And it
Mm.
was an old saying my grandfather used to say to me when I was looking for something and it was right, in front of me, or right, but right beneath
Okay.
my feet. So, I mean, figuratively too, you can also use that saying just to be like, yeah, look close to yourself, look within, like
Mm.
it's right there in front of you. So I, it was kind of like an app thing to name a show, and it was all like nature based, where it's kind of like imagined landscapes and creatures and everything. I've always liked snakes, though. They're definitely such an interesting creature. I do like the fact that they're constantly shedding. So they're like really akin to impermanence, and so they kind of like speak to the
Hmm.
idea of monotype too. Like after this guy is done, you'll never be able to recreate him, right? There's not a plate that you could print a million of these from. Like when I print this, the impermanence of it is going to be a wipe, and then it's done, right? So,
Hmm.
you know, I've got snakes tattooed on my artist arm. So, you know,
Oh
it's like,
shit. Okay.
you know, it's just it's an expression of just kind of like the impermanence. You know, they're in constant transformation.
Hmm.
Um, Seeing a lot of snakes out here. I just saw a rattlesnake the other week, and it was coiled up and pretty fucking scary. Um, but like
Yeah.
they command this like otherworldly kind of space, which I really appreciate. Um, yeah, man, just kind of like transformation, looking within yourself to like know the answers, you know, changing yourself up, like constantly try and uh and change, you know, be aware of what's going on. I think like I don't
Sure.
know, that's all kind of like I don't know. I don't know. That's where I'm at with snakes, I guess. I've
Okay.
always liked them.
Yeah.
I don't have a snake. I wouldn't probably have a snake. I wouldn't want to collect a snake. but but they're freaking awesome, man. And they do wind up in my more narrative work too. Like I'll have a snake wrapping around a leg or an arm or just coming out of like the
Mhm.
black ooze sometimes. Um, but yeah, they're fun. They're fun to paint, fun to think about.
Do you have, you know, an attachment to any of your, you know, your pieces that you've had, you know, through the years where you're like, man, I hate to wipe this guy away, but you know, it's kind of one of those things where it's come to that step in the process, and here we
Yeah,
are.
yeah. I think earlier on in my career, I was just kind of like I was super precious about my work, and like I would keep some of my art, and like now I'm totally like, nope, this is about me capturing a moment in time, and I'm gonna send it back out into the cosmos, man. And like I'm not gonna become precious with it. I know that it's impermanent, and I'm down with that now at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, so yeah, I
Man,
don't know. This guy's
this thing
probably
rips.
getting close to being done. Yeah.
Sick. All right.
And I don't know if we pause for a moment, I can print it and then
Okay.
show you the result on paper. Let me just clean it up.
Sure.
So I'll
Yeah.
have to abandon my post to get to my press, but yeah, just hold on one second. We can continue to
Cool.
talk while
Sure.
I'm setting stuff up. But yeah, I think this is probably done. Maybe a few highlights down here.
That's fucking awesome. God, it's just it's so cool too. I mean, like even in the time of being able to have the opportunity of kind of seeing the different steps from the initial oval black shape to, you know, what we're seeing now. Like it's mind-boggling, really.
Yeah, it's fun, man. And like again, like as we start talked about at the beginning, like I had no idea what was going to come out. So that's always a really fun thing to get into. Just realizing that what's going to come out is what's want. It's what wants to be seen, and you just like you go from there, man. And it's like a lot of fun to just create. Let's see, cleaning up the
So
edges
rad.
here. Super, you know, retentive about anything else on the plate other than what's there. Like a little speck of black somewhere can ruin a piece. No. Yeah, but you know, I do love the stark contrast of the black and white. I think it's
Awesome.
fun. I had a professor told me one time, he was like, if you can't say it in black and white, you can't say it. All right, so I'm gonna get up, get this press set, get the paper right. You guys can check that out. We can continue to talk.
Sick. Absolutely radical.
Let's see here.
So yeah, from having this process and just kind of seeing these different things. I mean, it's always so cool to be able to have the opportunity. Um, Initially, a black oval, we wind up with a piece like this, even from simple things, you know, as far as just circles around the eyes, having the detail coming down from that. Grady makes it look so easy.
Oh, come on.
And I know it's not.
I just been doing it.
And I know it's not.
Yeah, it's not. No, you know, if you're not having fun with the art either, like that's something you should ask yourself too. Like you got to make it a thing where it's not. I mean, you got to learn your technique and like put a lot of labor into that, but like after that, you know, have fun. If you're not, like, what are you doing? So
now somebody's asking about getting your art tattooed.
ooh, I get that a lot.
This would be insane. Okay, what is this process, and what tips do you have for somebody who's taking this on?
Wow. First off, you got to find a tattooer. You got to find a tattooer that's able to hit all the, you know, gray halftones and everything like that. I would say I'm super down with people doing that. Like I wouldn't mind. Just make sure you tag me as where you got that image from, man. So
Love that.
Yeah.
Giving credit. Yeah,
give me
sure.
credit.
For sure. Yeah. Man.
Okay, so
and having something like that, I mean, that's a great idea. Have you had people getting your stuff tattooed? I feel like now that I'm asking this out loud, I feel like I've seen a couple of things. Maybe you tagged?
No, like I've had people ask me. I've never seen the result, but it doesn't mean it's.
We gotta change this, brother. Yeah, we gotta.
Yeah,
you gotta get this changed
grab
for
my
sure.
phone here so we can. Okay, paper is now on the plate.
Okay.
And here is my trusty.
Now, do you have anything
my trusty
like
press.
a clamp or anything like that? Oh yeah, shit. Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
3 different blankets go on top so you don't crack the plastic. All right, and then I'll step back here. Let me see if the pressure feels right. That is too light. Hold on one sec. Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, that's too tight. This is what I'm talking about. It's like there's little subtle differences.
Intricate.
So
okay.
I'm just trying to feel, I'm feeling the pressure of the roller on top of my plate right now. And there is a specific feel. It's interesting doing it one-handed, holding the phone. No, it's cool. I like it. Super DIY. Let's go. All right. So, all right. Send it through. I like to send my stuff through twice, or front and back. I don't know what it does. It just works for me. All right. Hold on. Get over here for the big reveal. All right. Okay, so here's what it used to look like. And here is the finished product.
Shit. That is so fucking cool, man.
So it came out, I mean, it came out pretty close to what I had on the plate. You get some little details.
God damn, this is so awesome.
Hell yeah. So there they are side by side. And of course, like it's a mirrored image as well. So
okay,
yeah.
right.
Okay.
Now, have you ever sold like the plexiglass, like as far as kept on that print? That's like, because it's still close, and like I feel like that's even kind of sick where you're seeing that original press on of it.
I haven't ever sold a piece with the like remainder on the plexi.
Yeah.
I have done where I just let the ink dry on the plastic, and that has been cool. Like I got some white plexi, maybe like a 1/4 inch thick, and and just did a piece and just let it dry on top, and then you seal it up with fixative or whatever it's called. But yeah, man. So
dude,
that was that process.
so awesome, man. I cannot honestly, appreciate any more thank you anymore. This has been so fucking cool. Do you have been doing lives as well? You've been jumping on. Is this something where maybe even within the week, you're trying to do like once a week, just kind of, getting in contact? You mentioned, kind of talking with people and your process.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying doing lives right now. It's definitely fun to meet my uh, viewership, my community for sure. Yeah, I never know when I'm going to do it. I'm doing art full time, so I don't have a set schedule. But I like to work in the day. I like to work in natural light, so it's usually I'm usually trying to hit lunch hour in the East Coast. So
Okay.
which is 10 o'clock for me. So yeah, like 9, 10 o'clock Mountain Time is sometimes when I'll hop on for sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Dude, this has been absolutely awesome. Anybody who's just jumping in, if you're jumping a little bit late, I highly recommend in the next couple of days, I'll be having up this full thing on my YouTube page, and not for myself, but for as far as Grady, his work, the insane fucking detail that goes into these things. Dude, this has been so
thank
cool,
you,
man.
thank you
Thank you
so
very much
much
once
for
again.
having me.
Absolutely. It won't be the last time. You know what I'm
Sick.
saying? We're gonna have to jump on and we're gonna have to do something else here. Maybe even doing like a monotype for dummies. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I can sit here and I can try to mimic and see what the fuck comes out of what I'm
I love
doing.
it.
This
Let's
is
do it. Let's do it.
sounds insane the more that I'm talking, and I'm probably gonna stop.
Yes. All right.
Like a master class. Dude, thank you
Thank you
so
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 much.
much once again,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
This has been
All
awesome.
right.
All right, enjoy the rest of your day. You guys take care. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye bye, man.
It's so lo-fi, lo-fi, a whole guy, yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.